Hello, welcome back to Bald and Board Games. I'm Bald.
On board.
We're going to review Bretwalda by Phalanx.
Yes, we just finished our playthrough this week of Bretwalda. We played it multiple times, one off stream, one on stream, to make sure we got a thorough understanding of how it works. And per usual, we're going to dig into our first review of 2026 and tell you our thoughts on how does Bretwalda walled.
Huh.
We found Waldo, but can we find Walda?
How does Bretwalda walled?
So per usual, we have 4 categories: rulebook, storage, gameplay, and then design merged with components. We'll go through each one. Our weighting system is here on the YouTube video and give you our thoughts.
All right.
So starting it off,
Okay.
storage. How do we
Dive
like
right
the
in.
storage?
Okay, so there's a lot that I do like about the storage. And then there's one very big thing I don't like about the storage.
Mine too.
Yeah. So what I
We'll be
like
the same.
is like this right here. Everything has a spot for the pieces where this actually sits on the side of the table while we play. We take pieces out of here, we put them back in, keeps it nice. You have to dump it on the table at all. So that is wonderful. So I really like this part of the storage. I also like this. All the minis easily put in and taken out for what you need. They fit in here perfectly. Everything's a specific size. They have their own rows. These do not fall out.
Hilarious.
I know. So nice and snug. Love this as well. That is great. This here, some pluses, some minuses. Mostly pluses. Again, everything has a specific spot. All of the tiles you have here for developments can fit here, and then in this area here with the dice, or sorry, here and here, and then this is where you can put all your dice. You have all your coins that can go right here. All the extra tokens here. There's actually some extras in here we don't even need. That's what I'm going to probably get rid of. The point is that there's space for all this. And it's easy enough to get these out and get it to the table. Cards fit in here sleeved very nicely. Pretty much perfectly flush the top, so they thought about that. And then your player boards fit right down on top here. Perfect. So there's 4 in the base game. They all fit perfectly right there. And then in the bottom of the box is where you have all the expansion stuff that also fits perfectly in its specific organized fashion. This review will be specifically for the base game, but the expansion information does come into play when talking about storage. And this is where we get into the thing I don't like about the storage. So all of this is very nice, but all of this goes into, can you actually just show that? Let's pull back.
Let's go front view.
Boom.
Yeah, so it's just
Into
a
that
big
box
old box
there,
here.
which is okay, except that all of this doesn't fit flush in that box, even with all the additions. So the expansion stuff in the bottom of that box, these card holder, very thick things I put on top, the top of the box. You're gonna hand me those over there. All of this as well, which are just hold more pieces that are extras that go on top of everything as well. All fit in the box, but there's still space in there. So when you turn the box on its side or move it around, things can get jumbled and wishy-washy. Now, it's a very minor thing because it's primarily going to be potentially these wells and the first set of wells that I showed you here where things get all mixed up and whatnot. But the fact that you have all this stuff in the box and there's still extra space isn't great, because some people may not have the expansions that came with Bretwalda. They may not have these card holders that came with it as well. And so if you only have the base version, I assume the box is probably smaller, but if you got the big box version, there's too much space in there. They should have definitely taken the time to condense that down a little bit so everything fit very snug inside that box and there was no wiggle room. So for the storage, I give Bretwalda a 4 out of 5.
All right. So for mine, I'll start with what you see here on the screen. This well, I have 1 pro, 1 con. The pro, all the pieces are separate. Great. And this is crucial for me when we're playing a 2-player game and there's 4 colors of pieces. It's nice. Okay, if we're playing red and yellow, we can take out just the red and yellow pieces. We don't have to try to sort out all the other colors. Absolutely love that. You have all the different building types. And to Nick's point, this sits on the table during gameplay. You can take out a building, put it onto the game board. Very convenient, very easy. My dislike to this, and this is, other games have done this perfectly fine, put a plastic covering over this.
Yep.
You have the little grooves. You put the plastic covering over. That way, if this gets tilted, nothing is going anywhere. It's just held within. We just experienced this when we turned the box sideways after gameplay yesterday, and all of these got shifted around.
And I know there's going to be somebody in the comments who watches this that comments on, well, you shouldn't be turning your games on their side. Well, it's kind of standard now, practice, that your games are designed, the storage, to sit horizontally or vertically based on your storage solution to keep the game.
Yes. This, 100% a pro. Absolutely love it. It fits all of the pieces, lines them up. You have enough in the row for each of the colors, neutrals, the Danes, everything. Phenomenal. And to Nick's point, this does not fall apart. This one here, I do like how they structured it, where, okay, the player boards sit in, and this becomes nice and level. Like I said, the cards are not over the top. They fit nicely. I don't like this. You have 4 player sets of cards without the expansion, and these are your player tokens. So right now you can see 2 of colors here, the other 2 are on our personal game boards. They built it where you put 3 in here and then 1 over here.
Yeah.
I wish they just expanded this section out to here. So all 4 just sit in, because you always have the 4 in the base game.
Yep.
So this isn't like an expansion. That would be a little bit different. But there's no reason why this couldn't have gone out here.
Yeah, it's just a weird
design
thing.
This section here is for dice. It is a little large for the amount of dice, but there were non-metal tokens that also would go in there. We just put them elsewhere because we have the advanced metal tokens. So that's fine. You have these for different tokens as well, and the coins. I'm not 100% sold on this because there's a lot of coins that aren't cash that go in here as well. So you have to, every time, take all of these coins out and separate all the groups.
And that might be an organization thing on my part and how to put them in here, because knowing what these are now, these,
I don't know where else.
These realistically can go here. Because you
but
take
then it's the same result here, though. You still have to take them all out.
Yeah,
and
but you
sort them out.
But in a 4-player game, you're taking out all the Daleks anyway to use.
Yeah, but you're not taking out all of these.
In a 4-player game, you would.
Oh, in a 4-player game.
That's what I'm saying. So it's probably designed to hold for 4.
Maybe. It's just, again, this is the one thing, it's a hole for stuff.
Yep. Hole for stuff.
And then you have all your ships and your aldermen down here. The only slight complaint, not really docking my score, but some I prefer, is in the setup of this section, this section, this section, I wish they put colors together.
Yeah.
You could easily, because they design these, obviously. You could easily have, like, okay, all of the neutrals are here. All of the Danes are here. All of red is here, including all of the other red pieces. And then all of the next color, and then 2 other colors, however it gets sorted out. Or put all 4 colors on this, Danes and neutrals onto this.
Yeah.
It would have been a little bit more convenient.
That specific thing is GameFound exclusive, this whole thing. But yeah, for the aldermen and the boats and stuff, for sure.
Yeah. So, overall, again, I enjoy the game. I like how they built this setup. It definitely is easier than a lot of others. But there is a few things they could have done better.
Yeah.
The other thing with the cards, too, is some of these cards are used in optional game modes and whatnot, and there's not a specific section to separate the optional game mode cards with all of the other cards. So you got to go sort through all the cards every time.
Yeah, they have a spot for the expansion-specific cards and stuff on the bottom, but that's about it.
Yeah, and then, to Nick's point, you have the card holders and everything else that kind of gets slotted in and eventually become a box. So I agree. I give gameplay... Nope, not there yet.
Wow.
Just kidding. I give storage a 4.
All right.
Better than a vast majority of other games we have.
Absolutely.
But there's a few little things, especially because this isn't Phalanx's first game of this magnitude even.
Yep.
So they could have done better.
Yeah. I will say it is better than Successor's storage. Significantly so. Alrighty. So next up, we have the rulebook and all accompanying player aids.
Yes.
How are the rulebook? Because this is...
So we have the main rulebook here. We have a player aid. So I'll start with the main rulebook, and then we'll get to the player aid. So, one thing that's surprising, because this is not done in many games, table of contents right on the front page. Usually it's inside.
It's great.
But very simple story. Boom, table of contents. Page number, everything. Highlight bold for the major topics and all the subsections. Love that. And not only that, like if you look here, page 7, 8, and 9, it tells you all the little things. It doesn't say, oh, game concepts, page 6 through 10. It tells you all of the things. So you could easily look. We only had to do that like twice, but I could be like, oh, I need to look about Chronicle cards. Boom, right there. Goes through normal information here about all of the things inside the box. Goes through and does show that game found exclusive, so it's nice that that's called out in the rulebook. We have had problems in other games where that's not even talked about in the rulebook that it's a game found exclusive. You got to figure out, why do we have this card or this token or whatever. So this is super nicely built and well done. I'm going to skip a few pages, because they also have here a nice layout of all of the player tokens as well. So you can easily look in the box, be like, this is the picture, this is what they are, and here's what they do. Setup, very simple for a 4-player game. So if you're playing with 4 players, this is very straightforward setup. You go through all these steps, everyone gets their colors, they do exactly what is shown in this graphic. I will come back to a 2-3 player game in a moment. Then it goes through core concepts, goes over all of the necessary information for all the card types, token types, units, great, love it. Overview of what the phases are, and then goes to talk about, okay, in the season phase, here's what you do for each season. A very wordy, but with examples, so easily understood for the most part. And then it goes through the different actions, what you can do when you do your action selection. Goes over battle and gives a huge example for battle. And then we get over here. 2 or 3 player setup. It gives you a little bit of information here, and then you go to the next page and it shows you how do you get rid of tokens when you're playing with only 3 players or with only 2 players. Then it goes right into solitaire play with this graphic directly above it. I hate how they built this. It should be like, you already are using 30-something pages. Use one more. It should be, playing 2 and 3 player games should be a header, have all the information, then the graphic. So it's right there, one page, you can see exactly what it pertains to. Solitaire play, description, graphic. And then if you have more information afterwards, continue afterwards. Because we ran into this issue here, optional rules, I read, down the column, next column. This is really here and then to here. This is a whole separate section. And Nick did it too yesterday.
Unfortunately.
And then you have all of your other subheaders. So the way they filled in all of the back information of lower player count, optional rules, solo play, all of these other things is just very cluttered, very wordy. It's once you read through it, it's easy to understand what's happening for most of these, but it's just a lot of information if you're trying to learn it the first time. Yeah. So that's my only con of this rulebook, is this whole back section of everything else that's kind of like a secondary thought after the main gameplay. Their bonus benefit is their player rate is phenomenal. This player rate covers every possible thing you can imagine for the normal circumstances of the game. So it goes over, here's the 3 phases. Here's images along with those phases so you can kind of see, oh, action phase, I'm using these 4 markers. Season phase, these cards. So it's very clear what's happening where. It goes over the pretender and what all the tiebreakers are. Goes over battle. Goes over the different actions from these tokens that match and how they work. On the back, easily describes every unit type, including the Dane units from the expansion and how they work. Goes over all of the buildings and how they work. And even goes over cost, upgrade cost, dice add-ons, everything is here. I don't think we ever really needed anything outside of this for the basic version of playing the game, other than like random one-off loophole questions that we go for.
Yeah, definitely kept us from going into the rule book when we need a clarification, like, okay, wait a minute. Where do I need to build a building? Oh, in red, may only be placed in a countryside. Like,
yeah.
On the,
so it's very clear. They highlighted colors, to your point, very clearly. So overall, not a huge fan of this because how setup, and I'm going to talk about more of that in gameplay, but how setup of a 2 and 3 player game is not built user-friendly to me. You got to set up the whole game and then kind of then remove stuff. It just complicates things, especially if you're trying to add on optional game modes or potentially expansions. But the player rate does boost that back up. So I'm going to give this a 4 as well for the rulebook.
4. Alrighty, my turn. I'm going to go backwards. So,
Sure.
Player rate, absolutely love this as well. Everything is very clear on here. You're going to use this section a lot. Again, here telling you where you can build specific buildings, as well as what they do. Down here for battling too, city, +1 defense die. Capital, you'd actually get +2 defensive dice, which we did not do yesterday when I fought you in the capital on our gameplay.
You never fought me in the capital.
I did, I fought you in my capital.
You walked out of the capital.
No, I came back to fight you here after you had control because I was trying to take it back.
Oh, I only rolled 1 die.
You rolled 2 dice because
No, I only rolled 1.
Yeah, you should have rolled 2.
Yeah, I still won the battle.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter.
So, anyway, besides that,
Did not change the outcome of that game at all.
What I love too is that here on the movement is it also gives you this very clear like how many movements do you need to get over specific lines without being wordy, like just diagrams, images. You know when you learn this game, 1 red arrow means 1 movement, so to go over a thick line, 2 red arrows means you need 2 movement, so on and so forth, which is magnificent. And then everything else that is laid out here is very, very clear. Multiple times, board would go to do the feared action, try to put units into areas that weren't cities, and I would be like, actually, they need to go in cities. You literally look at this and be like, oh yeah, doesn't need to go into a city, because it says it very clearly and precisely right there. Phalanx does a great job condensing this into a 1-page thing. They did the same thing for successors, front and back, which it can look intimidating at first, but once you go through this ends up just making it so much more clear. Absolutely love this. And it's always on nice, thick cardstock as well, because I know you're going to be using this a lot. Here, I love the table of contents on the front of the book. I think that is fabulous, having it there so you can easily go, okay, where am I going? And go instead of trying to flip in and then find it. Components overview, I do love the big G for GameFound exclusive, which they have on the components as well. So you know, okay, if we don't want to play with any exclusives, then I'm going to remove that and not play with those. All the images are very, very clear. One thing I do wish that this did have, which I didn't mark it down for, was I do wish that this had the equivalent like miniature references for the different tokens. So like the pillage marker showing, okay, the fires are the pillage markers and stuff like that, which we figured out. It's not that big of a deal, so I'm not knocking it.
I think that was the only one we got confused at. I think everything else was
very
straightforward.
straightforward. Yeah. Game setup, very, very clear. Again, I think, once you get into it and you've done it once, it's pretty intuitive as to kind of where everything goes. You're used to the map, you're used to where everything is at. You know how many people go into your spot. You know the limit of how many people can go into the neutral spots. There's something I'll mention during design regarding this, but for the rulebook, this is very clear. The images are very, very clear. You can look at this and say, okay, those are all going specifically there. Reading this, it's not confusing. Everything is labeled very clearly in what they're doing. They kind of go over all the basics before they really get into the gameplay aspect of it. Again, here they give the diagram of the picture plus the miniature, so it's easy to correlate, like Board said. It gives you over the units more in depth here as well, which is wonderful. And then the entire rulebook is just filled with diagrams and explanations, which I think makes everything incredibly clear. There's nothing that was overly confusing about this. So for the playing with 2 or 3 players, I don't have the same issue that Board has with this. It's probably just how my mind works. When I see a rulebook, I see a header, it means everything below that header until the next one is part of that section. Which obviously what they were doing, but that's a me thing. And then even for setup here, like my mind doesn't process it as put everything out, then remove it. My mind processes it as we're playing as these 2 colors, so I'm just not putting out those things that have the red or the red X's, stuff like that. But again, that comes down to more of a preference thing. Like the solitaire thing doesn't bother me at all. I did mess this up yesterday, which isn't something I typically do, so I'm also not knocking it for that. Usually, the other thing I think could make this confusing is that line going down the middle for no reason, which is a design choice, but if these are in the same section, don't put the line there. Like that's something that could make that easier to understand this is all one thing, because this looks like a visual entire column separation because of it. But I love that in the back here it does have the optional rules where it has all the variant stuff. It's very easy to pick and play and insert modules. Like, okay, let's try it with this. We did that for our last game. We said, okay, you know what? We're going to do the independent Danes instead of choosing. We're going to do the randomized rules. We're going to do the more randomized setup where we get to set up the board instead. Which that also is another reason why this doesn't bother me. Because beyond the tokens getting put out, our individual the markers people were not using, you don't even need this. Once you get the color set out, kind of like we have here, you no longer need this diagram if you're doing the situation where you're putting the dalks out and you're putting the neutrals out, because you're getting to choose that thing. But overall, a very quick read. And then, looking at this in conjunction, again, with successors, they definitely have learned from their games on how to make things easier to understand, more condensed, and quicker to learn. So my score for the rulebook is a straight 5. I don't have any problems with it really whatsoever.
Okay. Woo! So from the rulebook, we move into design. So design is how everything looks, how the components are, what they're made out of. Are they sturdy? Do they last multiple gameplays? And how you feel the vibe of
The V-Bear.
Bretwalda is.
Bretwalda. All right. So we'll call out first. We do have metal coins. Metal coins are not in the base. It was an add-on like it always is, but they are magnificent. I love them. We have them. The original punch-outs were just as clear regarding what they were. The metal coins can be a little ambiguous at first. Okay, what's 1, what's 3, what's 5? But
They say it on the coins.
they say on the coins. I mean, it can be hard to see, but also they're different sizes. So that's also an intuitive thing. Smaller is smaller, bigger is bigger. Very clear. The minis, so the power tokens, very, very straightforward, very clear. They don't look similar. They have different symbols and colors, which is wonderful. All the individual minis here are a nice, sturdy plastic mini. Nothing overly fancy, but nothing super cheap. And I like this middle ground that they found because this feels and looks like something that would have been used in a medieval board game, which I absolutely love. It really stays in theme, which I think is magnificent. And then again, different sizes for all the different pieces based on their value and their worth. So that also is a very subconscious intuitive thing, which is wonderful. The design of the knowledge tiles, I think, are great. Color coded, and yeah, I don't know. It's the thick, punch board. Again, the back having the color coding for the players, I think, was a superb idea. So this way, you're not having to sort these out. Okay, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3. Just give everyone who's red, give that person all the red backs, and then blue, yellow, blah, 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 so on and so forth. For the actual player board itself, let me come over here.
Yep.
This is a foldable player board, but it's nice and thick. This is not flimsy. It sits flat. I'm not worried about this being broken in a kind of way. I love the medieval design of this. It looks almost like a storybook or something that you would find in some sort of medieval text, which is awesome. All the way down like the Celtic sort of symbolism and everything. The artwork on the cards, same thing. Love all of the artwork there. The cards themselves are a nice linen finish, but they are a thin card. So they're a little bit thin, which is why I sleeve these immediately. Also, they get shuffled a lot, but they are a nice linen finish, so they're probably not going to get ruined that easily as long as you're not bending them. So into the sleeve they go. I like that you have your double-sided rulers. You can choose, king or queen, which is wonderful. Every board has their ability clearly on the bottom, even though some forget that's there.
I don't think I ever used it.
I know.
Not once in the game yesterday.
Something I really like about the design aspect of this is so during the game you will collect these Dalk markers. And all of the Dalks pertaining to the different areas are a different design, which I think is great. They could have easily just made these all the same and says, oh, collect one when you do this. But no, they went that extra mile saying, hey, you know what? This really special looking one, that is specifically for the middle area on the board. This really special looking one that looks very holy in a way, which is perfect because if you get 3 Abbeys, you get this one. And then these 2 here match the design on the back of the Chronicle card, which is essentially your objective. So when you achieve an objective, you get one of those Dalks. Again, very intuitive, and this one is just a generic one that's kind of on the board. So I love the design of the Dalks and how clear those are. Onto the board here, down the side, I love that the season cards all have their own design for the backs of the season. They're color-coded and designed differently. They also match the section here. So again, very easy to know which card pile you are pulling from and which season you're in. Also, I love when games include reference to gameplay on the actual board themselves. You don't have to look elsewhere. So right here at the top, it tells you specifically, okay, in this season, this is the actual thing you're doing, drawing Chronicle card. Here, Danes arrive. Here, you can bribe neutrals and Danes to move them. Here, food is going to ship. Even on the cards themselves, they tell you Danes arrive. They tell you how many Danes arrive here via pictorial use instead of words. Again, a lot of pictorial use, which is great. Okay, we'll go over here. Essentially your score track. Again, very clear, very simple to see who's in the lead, who's behind, how many of the ally tokens you'll get based on that. So here I would get 3 because I'm behind. Simple, Love it. Doesn't need to be anything else. They tell you here, Bretwalda, because these are one of the 2 win conditions, or 2 of the 4 win conditions. 5 win conditions. 5. Dead rulers, Bretwalda. End of game.
Elimination on board.
Yeah, that's dead rulers.
No, not because
dead rulers, all dead rulers. Bretwalda. End of game, most doubts.
There's a 5th. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Huh? Maybe there is.
No, it's only 4.
Oh, that's 5.
Anyway, so that's very, very clear that it labels it there. Now we get to the main board. So, I like that, okay, the cards have their sections. The main board here, though, and this is where setup could be made easier. So you have the different colored regions, red, yellow, blue, green, and you have a very specific way and very specific order in which tokens and stuff go down. So, for instance, these control markers are the main thing, right? They should just have these regions in some way outlined, like either around their city areas in that color, the yellow, the blue, the green, the red. So this way you know, like in this situation, if you're playing a 2-player game, a yellow marker will go down on all these spaces without having to reference the rule book. As far as we can see, and we've looked at this a lot, there is no indication or really mathematical way of knowing exactly where they would go until you've done it a couple times. So that is one thing that kind of bothers me a bit with that situation. When it comes to placing out the Daleks and the neutrals, when we first played, that was a concern, but then playing with the portion, the variant rules where we get to put down these individuals ourselves, that cleans that up entirely because they don't have to go in any specific region. There's just rules on where they can be placed, which is probably the better way to play anyway. So, with all that being said, with the cards that are a little skinny and with the board not having that forethought of really putting down any kind of symbolism to reference where these tokens would go if playing with fewer than 4 players, I give the design a 4.5 out of 5.
Alright, let's...
I didn't even touch on the dice. That's fine. I like the dice. I like the dice a lot.
I'll start there then. Dice! Yep, so for the dice, there are 4 color sets. You have defensive, so protection if you have a city or a capital. You have level 1, level 2, level 3. Very easy to see the colors. Mm-hmm. Not as easy to see them on the cards, so I'll bring that up next. This card, and it's orange versus red, which just annoys me. But... This, no, hold on, where's the other one? Hold on. Nope,
these are very distinctly different colors.
No, I know that those 3 are different colors, yes. There was somewhere where I was looking and I'm like...
You're talking about something. You're talking about something like this, where the shade's slightly different.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, so some of the shade's slightly different, and it only has a picture of how many markers there are,
number of swords,
or maximum number of swords. So the first time you play the game, you're like, well, which die is that? Because I see 2 swords over here, and then 2 swords over there. So you do have to like know, okay, the max swords, like the highest, middle, and lowest. It's not going against my score. It's just annoying sometimes when color discrepancies are.
Yeah, and if you end up looking at a card that has a 3, the red is definitely a very much deeper red, but juxtaposed to that other tan, it looks slightly reddish. Like, wait, are they different dice or not? Yeah.
Player board. Great. You have your setup. You put your ruler here, and the ruler card. You have your 2 markers for when you claim actions. Boom, boom. They go in 1 and 2. So it's very clear to see what you did first. Now you have choices for what to do second. You have all of your developments and building your kingdom here. Love that. And there's 4 tiles. 2 of them fit, so you gotta like do that. We'll talk more about the gameplay, like your strategy aspect. But it sits very nicely directly underneath. So you just go down the line on what happens when you do that action. And the coin colors match exactly those 4 action colors. So you're like, okay, if I'm doing green, I just go down the green line. Very nicely built for that. And these coins, we'll start there too, have cool little designs on them. They didn't have to go above and beyond. They could just have generic coin markers. Yeah. But they have little designs like, oh, this one has wheat. Oh, that's the collection action. Cool.
It has a treasure chest and wheat for the golden food.
Yeah.
Just fun.
For the other little pieces here, again, coins. We love a good metal coin. It's great. To Nick's point, size difference dictates denomination. So 1 3 5. There's a 2 and a 10 in the expansion content that come into play as well. The minis, awesome. There's a nice distinction between, okay, this mini is the Kroll, which is the smallest. It's smaller, and the shield is at his feet. The Thing is the middle. The shield is at his chest. Very nicely built. Very easy to identify what is what. All the other tokens, to your point, the Daleks, I like how they differentiate the 4 different types of Daleks. Onto the game board, I like how they built both of the side sections. Mm-hmm. So very clear. Okay, you finish this season, move to this season, find the card that matches that, draw the card, and then do the action up above. The only thing that I wish was stated here is, does it happen before or after the card is drawn? Mm-hmm. Because we did counter that, like this happens first, this happens after because it's on the card, this happens after, and then this is just no collection, so that just doesn't happen at all. But then you got to feed your people, which is on the card. So it's in the rule book, it does tell you the order, but it doesn't dictate on the board to say, do this first, then the card, or do the card, then this. I think it very clearly says for Chronicle, like, draw a Chronicle card. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, because spring says at the start of each spring,
yes,
draw a Chronicle card from the deck, and then summer says after the summer card is revealed, and then autumn says to repeat the claim ally marker step per summer, then in reverse direction play. Blah, blah, blah.
So per summer is draw the card, then do the thing. Mm-hmm. So it's clear in the rule book, which is great, but it's not clear on the board. On the other side, the Dalek marker, great. You have your Chronicle decks in over here. You have space on the board for your Lordship card. You have space for the Dane cards and how those will go out with the ships. Now the board. Now we're going to have some cons. Where to start? Let's start the what I consider the obvious thing. I have contacts in. I'm looking at this board. It is not super easy to read all of these locations. You have the capitals, okay, yellow, green, blue, red, they are highlighted in that color. Great. For a lot of these countrysides, they wrote it in, was it acrylic? That's not the word I'm looking for.
Script.
Script, yeah. So they wrote it in like old British script, which makes it a little difficult to read, especially as someone who doesn't know cursive.
He means someone you can't read.
I can read some words fine. I can see this number one I can read no problem.
I'm not entirely convinced you know how to read. I think you just memorize a lot of words.
Yeah, it's a version to read. So I don't like, because we only found like one card that has it, but some of the cards could have locations on it that says, hey, if this location is done in a certain way or you take it over, do this. So it's not super easy to dictate what all the names are. I also think if you're only going to name one location on a card, why name any of these as the actual cities? Just like have it as a city. Because they also have names above. So this is Gwent, and this is Kerowent.
Well, they also use them for these.
That's true. But so you have names of cities and names of countrysides, but then you also have these other large names up above them. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of words on the map. And they have meaning for certain things, but in that, you don't even need the thing because you have the picture. And it highlights on the picture what location it is.
Yep.
So to me, you could just get rid of almost all of the words. Keep the name of the capital, keep the name of the location to be like, okay, Northumbria, etc. And that's all you really need for naming on the board. The picture should then dictate, so we have brown means countryside, shield means city. Very straightforward from there. Second thing I'm not a fan of is how they separated these 4 sections. And what I mean by that is, obviously you're splitting the board into 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's fine. Each color, green, yellow, blue, red, correlate to a color board. Each board has its own effect. The effects don't match the colors on the board necessarily. So green, which is sitting over there, their effect is during collection, place 1 extra food marker. Well, on your board, yellow is the collection action. In my opinion, and you'd have to just flip the colors on the game board for this, this should be the yellow board. If the yellow board, or if the benefit on the board deals with collection, which is the yellow action, this should be the yellow board. Green's action on the game board deals with buildings and the abbeys. that should be the green. Blue and red are matching the way they're supposed to match. So it's just 2 of the 4 don't match, which is kind of annoying. When you go to look at it, you're like, wait, why is this here? Because that doesn't really match what I see. The one thing I also don't like, and we never really encounter this in gameplay because we never touched the ocean, is there are only 2 islands on this game board. If you are playing as character red, you can take this island almost instantly as soon as you build a ship. For any other character to get an island, yellow starts with a port here, but the island's way over here. Blue doesn't have a port to start. They have to go over here, take over this, and build a port, or build a ship over here. Same thing with green to go down there. So they built 2 islands to be like, hey, you can go on the islands. That's cool, but you didn't make it balanced for all 4 players.
Well, I think they're actual islands.
True, but like...
This is an actual map, so they can't just put an island out here
well, that's
for you.
true.
So it wasn't a... That's probably why it's not designated as theirs to begin with, like this.
Well, I know. True, but...
That was probably what they were trying to balance it.
It does seem a little weird that there's just 2 random islands.
To balance it, I guess this probably still does have a port, so realistically that does probably have a port. I was going to say, just take the port off that.
True.
And make it so you have to go to get a port, potentially. But
or just remove the 2 islands and be like, hey, we don't...
Yeah.
Because the islands aren't really necessarily part of game... It's not necessary in gameplay. You have a whole map. The islands, each one just give 1 gold. So it's not like a major place to conquer in order to like win the game. So you can kind of just get rid of it.
Yeah.
I had one other thing, and now I forgot it.
Was it your walls?
The walls are... it's not even an expansion, but there's walls over here. It's just confusing when you put the actual miniature on it onto what the wilderness versus normal road to cross over, like how much movement cost it costs. I'm just not a fan of how the walls were laid out. I wish it was just, if it's a wall, make the whole wall the same movement cost. But this wall over here has a shorter line versus a longer line, and this one's all the same. So I think that's just a development issue.
In the actual world.
I don't know. Does that wall exist the same way in the real world? We don't know. That's definitely not now. I had one other thing. That'll be gameplay. That might be it. Again, the way the characters layout is great for setup and for design of how you put all the characters out. I have no issue with that, but it's mostly like there's just a lot of clutter on the board that doesn't need to be there. So because of that, I am giving design a 4.
Okay.
Wow, we're straight shooting across this line now.
So far, yeah. Alrighty, so now into the PC results. That's not how you say it. Gameplay!
Yes, so gameplay, so before I go to the overview, we will talk about gameplay. I'm including in my score the optional game rules. We are not including the expansions.
Correct.
So any of the optional game rules, including ones we didn't play, just reading through them, we're going to scoring. But the expansions, we haven't played yet. We might do a separate video at some other time of gameplay with the expansions.
I mean, yeah, if we can get a 5-player game going where someone gets, where I get to play the Vikings, then yes. I'm not gonna say someone, that's fine.
That's fine.
I am entirely Ragnar.
Okay, so overview of gameplay. To Nick's point earlier, there's 4 win conditions. Get 8,
I win.
8 Dalks, instantly win. Get 7 Dalks, finish the season, and win. Because you could lose one in the middle of a season.
Piece of shit.
Get through all 12 seasons, whoever has the most Dalks win. And then the other one is kill 1 player's 3 rulers. If you play a 4-person game, as soon as 1 player's 3 rulers are dead, the whole game ends. Whoever has the most Dalks will win. So...
The 2-player game, if you kill the other player's rulers, you win.
Yeah,
so,
true. And we were on the edge of me taking all the Dalks, you're just murdering rulers. But then we both had 1 ruler left.
No, I had 2.
No, I killed your second one right before my last turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we both had down to 1 at the very final.
Well, I mean, you killed it when you got your 7th. So
yeah.
I was saying before that, it was you either had to get the 7th or I had to kill you.
Yeah. So, again, so you play it out. The main concept of this gameplay is 2 things. Territory control and action selection.
Yep.
So you have 4 actions that have...
Resource management.
Some resource management.
Money and food.
Yeah. Not heavy like a bunch of other games.
Yeah.
But you have 4 actions that can get upgraded with extra kingdoms. Kingdom tiles, they call it. Where you can have 2 of each, and you have a total of 4 to choose from for each color. You then have different areas. You start with your capital, and you expand outward. And to Nick's point, yes, there are resources of gold, there are resources of food. You'll need food to feed your soldiers during winter. You'll need gold to buy buildings and to do other things as well and upgrade your civilization. And it's that simple. You just go back and forth doing actions until one person has triggered or this has hit the end of the line. Yep. So I'm going to start for my explanation down here on this. So for the 4 actions, development action, absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. You can place 1 kingdom tile and you can build 1 building. A building, and it shows very clearly on here, costs 3 gold. So actually I'll just put it right there. Boom. Cost of a building, 3 gold. All 4 buildings are the exact same price. So you decide, hey, I want to build one, and it tells you very clearly where it has to go. Boom, you put the building down, you pay the cost. Mm-hmm. You then get the benefit in future turns for that building. For the kingdom tiles, again, like I said, you have 4 tiles to choose from, so strategy becomes crucial, because once you've built 2, you cannot replace them. So for Nick and I, we always do this one almost immediately, which is allowing our Krolls to move like any other unit. Normally they can't move on the map. But then you have to strategize. Do you focus on food and gaining resources? Do you focus on getting military units out there? Do you focus on getting more buildings and lordship cards? So it is that fun strategy aspect where no player is really going to play the exact same way. I love as well that in the game there are objective cards. Mm-hmm. Now that we played it correctly. And it makes more sense. So you get 2 Chronicle cards to start the game. During ages 5 and 9 in spring, you'll gain 1 more and then discard 1. And you can gain up to 2 of these successfully for more Dauks. So it's a fun little side quest that you're trying to achieve as you play the game. For the gameplay on the game board, I like how they built it where as soon as you enter a territory, if there's no one else there, you now control that territory. You put a control marker down. If you leave that territory, you still control that territory because no one else is trying to conquer it from you. That was a gripe I had with our last game of 2025, where as soon as you leave, you just lose it. I'm like, that doesn't make any logical sense because no one else is there. Like the rats took over Baltimore.
The rats took over Baltimore.
I don't remember. That was like 3 years ago. That was the thing.
What game was that?
GOT.
Oh, right. I was like, wow.
TOG.
TOG. Wow. Throne of games.
But I like how, okay, you're trying to spread your civilization, your empire out. I love how battling works in this game. Yep. Where you enter in, if I have 2 units enter into battle, each unit has battle dice, their units have battle dice. You roll off. And then you can use cards to benefit you. You can use cards for more hit markers, because each of them have a little sword on the bottom.
For the king or for the queen.
For the king or for the queen, yes. And then you have some card effects that'll just boost or prevent dice from being rolled. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Add strategy on when you're using cards. And there is a limit to how many cards you can use for the king or for the queen as well, which is nice.
Yep.
So battling, A+, phenomenal. And that has been a gripe I had last year with Western games where half of Western game, not just time, it was another one too that month, a Bantam.
Yeah.
Where in Western games, fighting is half the game and it wasn't played well. This is a war game, mostly, and it's played really well with how they battle, which Phalanx is great with that with successors anyway.
It feels like what these guys did great here, sorry to jump into your portion, but a lot of battle games, you roll a dice, that's it. What they do great here is they give you a phase beforehand, the dice roll, and like the during, like so it feels like you always can have a strategic edge to potentially win the battle either by getting ahead of it or coming from behind and taking the win, which is a lot of fun.
And they also add in the aspect of in a war, it's not a one-shot and done battle. Yeah. So you do the battle. If there is units remaining on either side or both sides, then one team can retreat, or you battle a second time and then you're forced to retreat if you've won the fight or lost the fight. So I do like that aspect where they make it more realistic. We're like, okay, the battle's not, okay, roll 1 set of dice. Oh, I had 1 real bad roll. It's over. And I just have to get kicked out.
Yeah.
Where, like, it forces you to be like, okay, you need to complete the full battle.
Yep. There's actually a card also that I never played. I don't know if you saw it in any of the gameplay, but it's one of the leader cards. where you play it before battle, and it says you keep playing
Lordship.
until entirely until entirely one side is destroyed.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't even be two.
Yeah, but I think there's only one of that card in
You
the
just
whole
keep
deck.
rolling until somebody dies.
So all of that I love. The things I don't like. Number one is exactly what you see on this board. There is no situation in a two-player game that says pick one color and then pick the opposite color. It just says you pick two colors. So I did this specifically for this example where we're just happen to be next to each other. And all of this side where you see blue and yellow are not controlled by anyone. They're just out of the game. This doesn't exist. You cannot touch those territories. So I don't like how they built it. They built this game for 4 players, and there's kind of, in my opinion, threw an option for 2 players to say, yeah, if you want to do 2 players, kind of just do this. Like, I wish there was markers like this out here where I couldn't take control of this, but I could still cross through these areas. Because if you need to win the game, you have to go control areas with Dowks. Dowks aren't going to be over here. You can't put buildings down over here, but I wish I could still walk through these areas if I wanted to. To like, oh, I want to come behind enemy lines. I want to come around this side. So, to me, kind of annoying that they built it in this fashion where they just shut down half the map in a 2-player game. Yeah.
I mean, shutting down half the map makes sense, but they should have...
But I wish it was shut down for fighting where I could still walk through.
Well, no, because then you could take it over.
No, I'm saying, like, literally, you cannot control it, cannot build there, but you can, like, cross over the boundaries. Like, you have an ally, and you're just, like, crossing through their territory almost.
Yeah. I guess, you know what is interesting, though? I think we got to play it where we're starting next to each other, because this may not be as detrimental as we think it is being next to each other, where there's this here, because we're still going to be going for the middle, and there's still kind of like just this hallway here of
But if
places.
I'm like this, I don't necessarily need to go for the middle. I'll just go right for your ruler 3 times.
Yeah, but I would be doing the same thing for you, potentially.
Potentially.
So I'm just saying, it's like this hallway isn't very different than this hallway. It's kind of just turned to its side. The only difference is
I think
the
it's easier to
proximity.
protect this way than it is this way.
3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's the same number of spaces to get to my ruler if you're there to here.
No, it's not, because 1 movement, 2 movement, 3 movement, 3 movement, 4 movement.
4.
No, this one, because you have a
1,
bunch of double
2, 3, 4.
Is it? Oh, because you can cross that way.
It's the same. So they did. It looks deceptively closer, but it's the same number of movement spaces.
We'll have to try that version.
That's what I was saying. Because I had the same issue initially too. I was like, well, we start next to each other, like, damn. But yeah, that might actually create a scenario for some fun, like, randomness, to where, yeah. Anyway.
So last thing I'll say, and then I'll be done with mine, is for the resource management, or the gaining of resources, it seems very heavily emphasized that you need to build buildings to do that successfully. We've played this game twice. Every time when you get to winter just destroys your food before you even feed your people. So there is an aspect of this where it's like, I think there should be more food locations out. Like a city, normally a city could have farmland next to that city. Obviously you have a countryside with a lot of farmland, so maybe like this farmland, well this countryside doesn't even have, this is just gold. But like some of the farmland should have 2, and then a city should have 1.
They have a money tree.
Yeah. So I just think it was very hard to get resources, which kills your units pretty easily in wintertime.
Yeah.
It didn't really play that hard of a detriment towards the end game, but overall I think resource management kind of was like, I needed more money, way more important. It was way more important to have more money than it was to have food.
Yeah.
And I think they should just balance it out where like food should be just as important.
Yeah.
Okay. So, long gripe, sorry.
That's why we're here.
Overall, love the game. I love the 4 win conditions that, it's similar to Successors, where you have to balance multiple things and watch how your opponent's moving and doing things. I give gameplay a 4.5.
Yeah, so you can buy food, obviously, from other players. And
Yeah, but
stuff
no one's
as
doing
well,
that in a 2-player
but
game.
not in a 2-player game, no. Yeah. What I wish is that, like, if you had units in your capital, you didn't have to feed them. Like, your capital still produces food for everywhere else, but if they're in the capital, you have to feed them.
That would make sense as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You
So
said
4.5.
4.5?
Yes. I'll let you gripe now. Or rant or cheer.
My time for granting. All right. So, let's start with my player board. Yeah. Here we are.
Yep.
All right. So first thing I love about gameplay is that you have multiple rulers. I think that's a very fun idea. And they all are, so you have male, female, and then they all have different abilities. I was really worried that the male-female thing wasn't really going to matter, but literally you have six potential different rulers to play as with 6 potential different abilities, health, attacks, movement, etc. So what we did a randomized ruler to start, and then A or B side to flip, and from there, after that, we decided to choose we were playing. But you can choose every single time which one you want to start with and go in with it. So I think that is a lot of fun. I like, obviously, an objective card is always great. I love having the lordship cards and that they have a multi-use between the effect. They can be used for gold at times, which I kept forgetting that you could do that.
Same.
And you can use them to attack. So the gold can be used, I think, when you're building a building or you're doing the feared action.
Yes.
So
yeah, we never did that.
No. Should have, though. So I think that is a lot of fun. I like this idea of the kingdom building section here. The fact you can build a kingdom and a building. The fact that when you recruit, you can recruit units and you can build a ship as well when you're doing that. The shortcoming, I think, with this section is it seems like there is a very specific 4 that everyone's probably going to go for first. So, because food is difficult,
It's definitely a different 4 than I have, though, which is
collection is definitely going to be the 2 of your units do not need food in the winter.
I think we have a different green.
I think the green one's the one where it really does depend on your strategy. So you can go for the bidding potentially, or you can go for cities. Probably would be best is build any number of buildings with development, so that way you can get multiple buildings out.
You named 3 of the 4.
No.
I have the 4th. This is my first one.
The meat hall for one gold.
The lordship, because then you could just stack lordship cards.
Yeah. Yeah, so you did too. The one that I think everyone's going to do is the countryside mobilization. Yep. So whenever you do a feud, you get to just put out for free your Creoles, your little guys, in every countryside that you own. And then the other one that everyone's going to do is the Creole leaders, where you get to move them like other units.
Yep.
After that, down here, that's where it starts to vary a little bit more, depending kind of on what you're doing. You'll probably do Javelineers for your Creoles, so they get to attack first if you have a bunch of them out there, because this whole section here pairs really well together. So that's my one thing that I see as a slight lack of replayability. Is everyone's going to kind of go for those same set up here, and that just means everyone's playing the same game for the first 4 rounds if you do it develop every single round. So that's okay. The gaining of the Daleks, I think, is a lot of fun, like the different areas, especially when they're put out randomly. It just gives you areas to focus on to create conflict, which I think is great. The different buildings that are out here that you can use, so between the abbeys and the granaries and stuff, and being able to get more resources that way with those is wonderful. I like that you have a different ability for each character color in addition to each of the rulers. I think that really helps kind of drive your play style. I like that you can only do 2 actions each turn. I think limitations are great because it forces you to make a choice. The gameplay aspect of battling is a lot of fun. Again, like we mentioned before, and you get to kind of incorporate the cards in the beginning, in the end, and in the middle of the battles. Creates a nice tactical thing. Like I said here, I definitely want to try playing a game where we start next to each other to see how that plays, because we've played both directions so far, and it really is like a corridor, and you're kind of rushing for that middle spot and then trying to hold it is really what ends up happening. Where here, it would be a little bit less than that, because you can kind of both go for that, but then it leaves all this open down here, which is interesting. It also would force the Danes to be more in these areas too.
Which I never talked about.
Yep. So there's a phase that I really like, which is so the Danes that come out. So during the normal gameplay, you will bet gold. Whoever bets the most gold will get influence over the Danes. They get equal number of cards equal to the number of gold they bet. So if I bet 2 gold, I would get 3 cards. And then you would choose where you want them to go. So if I ended up choosing that one, I wouldn't want to choose because that's me. But if I chose this one, it tells me where they would go and the location that they would end up going into, which is also out of play. But they would end up essentially going here.
Yeah, I just put all the cards in.
Yes, that
was easier.
But so I like that they would just kind of arrive, and then they would just raid, and then they pillage, so you wouldn't be able to do any kind of collection from the surrounding area. So this is your area. If you were blue and in play, you all of a sudden couldn't collect from any of the areas that the Danes are in or adjacent to, which is cool. I think that's great. It really throws a wrench in the system, and especially the way that we ended up playing to where the first card that's flipped is the Independent Dane. It gets flipped. They would move from where they're at over to that spot and raid, and then a new set would come in and do the same thing. So that is a lot of fun when it comes to gameplay. In general, I think gameplay is a lot of fun. The tactical element of it, like I said, the one thing I have as a gripe for the tactical portion is the kingdom development. I feel like everyone's going to really go for really 3 of the 4 top ones are going to be about the same for each person. Which is fine, but that could be heavily dictated by, your objective cards that you have. Really, the red zone and the blue zone are probably, I think red, blue, and yellow are going to always be that because you're going to want to get units out and you got to feed them. And food is very hard to come by. You need to make sure you have a way of getting a bunch of food, and every winter food gets trashed, just gets thrown out. For the blue ruler, one of their rulers, if you have units with them, they don't need to eat while they're with that ruler. So that kind of helps give them a tactical advantage. But I don't think anybody else has that. No. Which is why the yellow, 2 of your units don't need food for the winter, really helps out. So food is a difficult thing. The winter penalty of just getting rid of food is very harsh. I almost wish there was a building where if you had like the granary, right?
Silo.
Well, like if you had a granary,
yeah,
like any food that's in the space of the granary doesn't get subject to the winter like disqualification sort of thing. So there's a lot of those sort of things I wish happened. I like that you can influence the neutrals and push them into your opponent, and you can also make the neutrals fight the Danes to clear them out if they're approaching on you. I think that is a lot of fun. You have to spend gold according to the value to do it. The things that I think I'm not a fan of, ultimately. Oh, God, I had 2 things. So, first of all, the objective cards, right? I like that there are objective cards. I like that you can get a new one each spring. But they definitely, we talked about this our first gameplay, some feel way more difficult than others. So there's some that involve having food and discarding all that food and gold. And that just seems ridiculous to achieve. Because you have to spend your entire game trying to do that thing. Where there's another one where it's like, okay, control 12 land areas. Easy. Get a bunch of units, just spread them out. Once you have the 12, objective complete. Yeah. And then once you lose those land areas, you don't lose the Dow for doing the objective. So the Chronicle cards feel a little, they don't feel really weighted. They feel like there's a lot that are way easier than others in that essence. There was one other thing that I forgot. What was it? Fuck. Was that the only random thing? That might be the only random thing that I'm not a fan of. I do like the randomness of the seasons and the effects. That creates some fun moments. Like in the first game we played, me putting an Abbey down and then it immediately getting burned down. I think that was just a fun, like, oh, God damn it. And it makes you kind of, have to think on your toes. Oh, here's the other thing. I think a pitfall in a lot of war games is they always try to include sea battling and the seas. So successors, we've never done it, even playing with 3 people. Here, we've never done it either. There's just never a good reason to go out to sea and battle. Like, they never do anything that really makes that worthwhile. And so this just feels pointless. Like, sure, you can go out, go take this island, go take that one, but the chances that someone's going to try and take those from you, probably not going to happen. The only sea battle you're likely to get into is if your ship is just chilling here and a Dane happens to arrive in that spot, and then you have to battle it out. But other than that, there's really no point. So I think in this game, sea battling wasn't needed whatsoever. No sea movement was needed to then your point of the islands. They're not needed in that picture either. I think sea battling is only really needed if you have two entirely separate islands and you have to travel between them to get objectives to ultimately win the game, which is not this. So
no, and obviously you could take a ship from here with units, because you can travel 1-2 sea spaces and drop them off and like come behind enemy lines. But because the map is so small generically to begin with, as soon as that happens, that yellow person is going to notice and move their units over to protect.
Exactly.
So unless you're playing a 4-person game where you're getting attacked from multiple sides, sea battling is not really a thing, to your point.
Yeah, it just like the lordship cards felt like throwaway cards and pointless when you drew those. It just kind of felt like trash. And the ports become useless as well. So not a fan of that. So ultimately, when it comes down to in summary, I like everything about the game: the battling, the movement, the abilities. My 3 things that I don't really like as much, obviously, the sea battling I think is pointless. The unbalanced Chronicle cards there, and the development tiles and how those work. I really wish for the development tiles they had unique development tiles that were slightly similar but different for every single faction. There's only 4 players. There's only a certain number of these tiles. Instead of doing 4 for each, just make 3. So you're choosing 2 of the 3, and just make them unique to each faction. I think that would have made it way more interesting. So, in summary, at the end of all that, my score is a 4.5 out of 5 for gameplay.
Boom. All right, so we will now quickly go over each of the 4 categories with a score for bald and board independently and combined, as well as just like a 1-sentence blurb, and let you know where Bretwalda by Phalanx falls on our ratings tier between perfect 5 stars all the way down to the dreaded 0.
The dreaded, which is not a thing in this one.
That's, and the 5's not a thing either, but
yeah.
Not that I want to play a shit game, but I do want to play a game that's a 0 to see like how bad would the game have to be for us to give it a perfect 0, or even like a 1 or less.
It'd have to be unplayable.
I know, it would have to be so bad.
It'd have to be so unplayable.
But all right, let's start off for this game, which is not that. Bretwalda storage, I gave it a 4. Bald gave it a 4. Bald and Board Games gives it a 4. It's a big box with a lot of things in it. There is space for everything, and the little minis are very well protected in their spots. But adding little plastic covering to the well section and just making sure everything is flush would have upgraded that score to a 5 probably.
Possibly, yeah. All right, for Rulebook, I give it a 5. Board give it a 4. So Bald and Board Games gives it a 4.5. In true fashion for Phalanx, the reference card is magnificent. You really only need that while you're playing the game. The rulebook itself is also very good, with some very minor things that create confusion while reading it, while trying to learn, which is where the diagrams are placed and the line down the middle of columns that makes it seem like one thing is separate from another.
For design, Bald gave this a 4.5. I gave design a 4. Bald and Board Games keeps it at a 4. We always round down. Really well built. Minis are great. A lot of the tokens, the metal coins, phenomenal. Player boards are great. The big gripes that lowered my score down to a 4 were too many words on the board that aren't needed or used for anything, as well as the color discrepancy between the benefits for yellow and green.
Yep. Alrighty. And for gameplay, I give it a 4.5. Board give it a 4.5. So Bald and Board gives it a 4.5. In the end, Bretwalda is a lot of fun to play. And the few things that we are kind of nitpicking at are just kind of on the periphery of moments where it's like, oh man, I wish they did this instead. But it doesn't ruin the game or break the game at all. It would just make it a little easier to stay in the fun while playing.
Yep. And then finally, our summed up scores of all 4 columns independently. So as board, 4 columns together for Bretwalda, I give it a 4 out of 5.
And as Bald, I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
So rounded together, based on each of the columns rounded, not our scores rounded, we give Bretwalda by Phalanx a 4 out of 5, which means...
It is a Bald and Board game certified must play.
Yeah, great game. It meets all those criteria. Little nitpicky on each of the 4 grouping types, categories. But overall, we would bring this back. We want to play it with 4 players and up to 5 players.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I absolutely do. Actually, I want to try this out in the solitaire mode too, to see how that. I gotta practice. I don't make stupid mistakes like I did in our playthrough last time. That's really why.
Hilarious. It would have been a very close game if you didn't make 2 dumb mistakes.
2 very dumb mistakes. But that's also another reason why this is a great game, because the tides of battle really can be turned by 1 or 2 dumb choices. I love that in a game where if you would have just done one thing differently, it could have gone an entirely different way.
Oh, yeah.
That's just, it makes it so much fun. And that's what makes you want to go back and play it again. So,
it also, last thing is, I didn't bring this up in gameplay, but we've played a lot of war games. We have many more coming this month in January.
Oh, yeah.
This one, surprisingly, is not a long war game. So, Successors, which is Phalanx's other game, we will be playing this upcoming week. Takes 3 to 6 hours, depending on new players, how long you're taking for decisions. This, after we've learned the game, took about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So a 2-player plays quick, 3-player maybe a little bit longer, up to 2 hours. But overall, not that bad of a war game.
No, what's great is it plays quick, but it still feels like you got the full feeling of a war game, which is great. So if you're looking to jump into a war game and see how those play, this is a great one, it seems like, to start with, to really learn kind of the general gist of what a war game is before you dive into something like Europa Versailles or something like that. So, which we haven't played.
Or Axis and Allies or anything like that.
One. The Europa one's like huge, tons of...
I want to do Diplomatica.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. But thank you for joining us here today at Bald and Board Games as we reviewed Bretwalda by Phalanx. I am balding.
I'm bored, and will always be. We'll see you
in Mercia, or Northumbria, or Wessex, or the other one that I can't remember.